Hey everyone. So today we want to talk about resource scheduling optimization for field service scenarios. As a reminder, resource scheduling optimization is a solution that sits on top of universal resource scheduling, and it works with Dynamics 365 for field service to schedule on-site scenarios. So the resource scheduling optimization solution is a combination of the traveling salesman problem and the vehicle routing problem. The traveling salesman problem says that given a list of cities and the distance between each city, what is the minimum distance that a traveling salesperson has to take to travel to each city and also return home? And similarly, the vehicle routing problem is what is the optimal set of routes for a fleet of vehicles who are traveling to various customer locations each day? Now, the main reason that resource scheduling optimization is so valuable is that once you get to a certain number of jobs or a certain number of resources, the amount of combinations becomes very large, and only a computer can give you the best results. As an example, if you were trying to schedule one resource to 4 work orders, there'd be 24 possible routes that that person can take. However, once you get to 10 resources, each doing 10 work orders each day, it becomes a quadrillion different combinations. And you can imagine if you had 1,000 resources each doing 10 each day, or 10,000 each doing 10 each day, then you really need the computer to give you the best results. So let's take a look at our system. Here I'm in Dynamics 365 for field service, and I'm looking at my active work orders. These are the on-site service requests that I need to schedule my field technicians to. You can see some of them are inspections, other of them are a call to install or replace something, and others are diagnostic and repair. So let's go ahead and take a look at one. So the work order is detailing the work that needs to be done at a customer's location. So the service account is who the work is being performed for and where. We can see this is an install or replace work order. We want to replace a specific broken part. And we can see more information such as this job is expected to be 2.5 hours long. Now, when you enable a work order to be scheduled, a resource requirement record is automatically created in the background. Now, the resource requirement is what is fed into resource scheduling optimization and is what is actually scheduled. And this is more outlining what type of person we want for this job. So as an example, we want someone who is available between these dates and they're available for 2.5 hours. It also says that we want something with assembly repair skills. However, you can add additional information such as I want people with these types of roles, or I want someone from this particular organizational unit, or I want these specific resources. Now, if I head to the scheduling section here, there are more details about how this job can be scheduled. So in the top here, we can see that there can be different time ranges to schedule this job. We can see that this happens to be an emergency work order, which means that it's higher priority. On-site, because this is related to a work order, it means that this job is taking place on-site, but RSO can also handle scenarios where the job is being handled remotely over the phone. The latitude and longitude is a specific location where this job will take place. As before, it's saying that this job is expected to be 2.5 hours long, and it relates to the Washington territory. This is important because this means that we would like this job to be scheduled to resources who are part of the Washington geographic territory. Additionally, under the resource scheduling optimization section, we are outlining that we want this job to be scheduled via the optimization engine and not manually. And finally, this particular requirement is related back to our work order here. So from here, let's take a look at the schedule board. And I'm going to head over to our Washington Jobs Schedule Board tab, which is showing just our Washington resources and our Washington jobs. And these are the ones that we are going to optimize. So here on the top, we can see all of our available resources, and right now they aren't scheduled to any jobs, which is why it's completely blank. In the bottom here is a list of all of my resource requirements. We just took a look at one, but we can see that there are many resource requirements related to many different work orders. Some are an hour long, some are 2 hours long, and it's variable. Additionally, I can see these open requirements and these resources on the map. So as an example, these darker pins are resources, and this is where they're starting their location or where their current location is now. And these pins with question marks are unscheduled job. So when we go ahead and run resource scheduling optimization, the goal is going to be to schedule these unscheduled jobs to the nearest resources and create effective routes. So let's go ahead and head over to resource scheduling optimization and do this. So you can see here I'm in my resource scheduling optimization solution. I'm going to go ahead and go to optimization schedules. We have one schedule here, and the purpose of this one is to optimize Washington State work orders to Washington State resources. I'm going to go ahead and select this, and I'm going to manually run it. What this is going to do is going to send my resource data and my requirement data to Azure, and it's going to compute the best routes from my fleet to take. So now that we've run RSO and we've sent the data to Azure, let's review how it works and what we've done so far. So how does RSO work? First, as we said, we have a list of these given work orders, and these are on-site work orders that need to be completed by our company, and their various different service requests. We also have a list of Washington State resources that can do those jobs. And what we've done so far is we've manually hit RSO. Now what this is doing is this is sending the data to Azure, and it's evaluating all the different possible combinations to schedule these work orders to these people. And the main focus is going to be to minimize travel time. Other than that, we can take a look at each person's working hours and maximize their utilization. It's also going to take a look at the skills required by the jobs and the skills of the resources. It's going to prioritize more important work orders over less important work orders. And it's also going to adhere to promised time windows, such as if we promise to the customer we'd be there at a certain date and time. And there are actually a few other attributes that the RSO will handle as well. Now, after RSO runs, we still give the dispatcher the ability to override the results. As an example, let's say a customer called and canceled. The dispatcher can go into the schedule board and mark that a job has been canceled, and even has the option to rerun the optimization. Also, if you didn't cancel it, the dispatcher still has the ability to go in and make manual overrides, such as swap an order. Now let's head back to the system and take a look at our RSO results. So back in the system, we're here in RSO, and we're looking at that optimization schedule that we just run. And we can click into it for more details. So we can see that the job that we've run is completed, and we can see which jobs have been created. What this is telling us is that it took our Washington State work orders and our Washington State jobs, and the goal of it was to maximize productivity, and it even gave us a range of when the jobs were scheduled to, which is over the course of the next 2 days. If I head to the booking tabs, I can even get an individual view of all the different bookings that were created to fulfill this optimization request. We can see that it created a bunch of bookings with a status of scheduled, and they were related to these resource requirements and these work orders. It's even telling us the priority of which ones were scheduled. We can see that in total, 104 jobs were scheduled. Additionally, there's a graph to the right that's telling us how much working time and travel time was scheduled as part of this request. So for these 104 jobs that were scheduled, about 9,500 minutes of working time were scheduled, and in order to fulfill this was 639 minutes of travel time. And this is important because it helps organizations track how much resource scheduling optimization is improving their travel efficiency and their working hour efficiency. If we head to the schedule board, we can now see a lot of bookings scheduled to our resources. However, rather than looking at all of our resources across our entire organization, let's head to the schedule board tab that has been created by RSO called Washington Jobs. Here we're seeing just the resources and just the jobs that were scheduled as part of that optimization request. First, you can see that jobs were scheduled for today and tomorrow as we set the range to 2 days. And we can see that basically all of the resources time are filled up with jobs. Also, we can see that the RSO is respecting the individual working hours of each resource. We can see that some resources are working later and are scheduled jobs later, and they're even scheduled longer jobs. Some instances, we can see that the RSO has asked a resource to travel to a work order and then travel to another work order and yet travel to another. Other times we can see that the RSO is asking a resource to travel to one job and then stay at that location as it found another job for them to do. And in this example, that's a huge savings that a lot of our customers get. Additionally, we can see all of this information visualized on the map. So here we can see particular resources and the routes that they're taking. Some jobs have remained unscheduled, as we can see by a lot of jobs have the question mark. This means that there were more jobs than time available, so there were some jobs left over. Or it could possibly mean that we didn't have any resources to fulfill these jobs. Maybe we didn't have resources with the required skills. So let's take a look at a day in the life of one of these resources. So if we click on Efren here, we can see that he's starting his day at this location. Next, we can see he travels to this particular work order, and then finally travels to another work order down the road. Even after RSO runs, we still allow the dispatcher to make manual overrides. As an example, we can see here that there's an unscheduled job along the route, and we have the ability to take this route and schedule this job to Efren. And we can see that it's adding another job to his schedule here. Additionally, we give the ability to the dispatcher to optimize the individual schedule of a resource after manual changes are made. So let's say the RSO ran, it scheduled a bunch of jobs to Efren. I can go ahead and even if a job was scheduled, I can re-optimize his results. Or in this case, when I add another job to his schedule, I can re-optimize his individual schedule. This is called single resource optimization. So now that we've successfully run RSO and scheduled all of our jobs, let's just make a quick note of some of the configuration options. If you can recall, this particular RSO was run through an optimization schedule. So we had one optimization schedule here, and we clicked it and we hit Run Now. This is a way of manually triggering RSO. However, there are two other ways to do it. The first is it can run on a specific schedule. An example of this is running it every day at midnight for the next day, or running it every day at 7 a.m. before everyone arrives at work. Or you can even go a step further and say run RSO every hour and optimize jobs. Another way to run RSO is through a trigger, and this can be triggered through the Dynamics workflow engine as well as a web resource. And this is an example of this would be to run the RSO whenever a work order is canceled or whenever a schedule change happens. Additionally, this particular RSO schedule was set up to optimize Washington State resources and Washington State work orders. However, you can also have another schedule set up for New York State resources and New York State work orders. Or it doesn't even need to be by geographic territory. You can have RSO set up one way for preventative maintenance and another way for break fix. So you can have multiple schedules, each optimizing different types of jobs, and you can have them running on different schedules, which makes it very powerful and very flexible. Thanks a lot for watching this video on resource scheduling optimization for field service scenarios.